New cons, old tricks. These are the interesting times. Hello all, my name's Matt Johnson and welcome to The Interesting Times, a political comedy show from the UK. So, the New Conservatives are in town. Conservative means not liking change, so New Conservatives does sound like an oxymoron. But 25 of them have back plans for dealing with immigration. They do represent about 8% of the total number of Tories, but these really are the worst of the party. And when you remember that's the Conservative Party, that's some tough competition. It's the creme de la crap, if you will. People such as MP for Divisive and man asking the barber for a Boris Johnson, Danny Kruger.
And the fact is I probably disagree with most members who've spoken so far about this question. They think that women have an absolute right of bodily autonomy in this matter, whereas I think in the case of abortion, that right is qualified by the fact that another body is involved.
But being anti-abortionist isn't new for the Conservatives. Then there's crowdfunder extraordinaire Brendan Clark-Smith. Brendan Clark-Smith, who, if you remember from last Sunday's show, we spoke about his starting of a crowdfunder page. Well, you'll be delighted or at least surprised to know that it's been going rather well. In fact, he has gone from 2 to 3% of the £5,000 target, thanks in no small part to 2 anonymous donors. So, a Tory MP has received 2 large donations from an anonymous source, but that's not new either. Then there's Neanderthal, knowing its feeding time soon, Jonathan Gullis.
And I know that the stencil's written about the fact that I call me avocado eating, chai latte drinking, sourdough.
Nah, I'm only kidding you, mate. Duckies, how you doing? Jonathan Gullis here, Member of Parliament for Stoke-on-Trent North.
I think it was absolutely, I'm late, I'm late, it's late at night and I'm...
Okay, that is new. Can someone please check on Jonathan? And indeed his carer, Sarah Atherton. Also Leah Nietzsche.
I cannot see where the evidence is where Boris Johnson misled Parliament knowingly, intentionally or recklessly.
Miriam Cates.
Probably permanent infertility, male pattern baldness, a deep voice for life. We're seeing the rise of the detransitioners who are saying that they were not.
Tom Hunt, and isn't he just?
I do think, though, it's right and proper. But if you do come from Afghanistan, you come here through the correct scheme. You don't come here via France.
Someone used to telling porkies, Gareth Bacon.
I mean, I've never had to use a food bank, fortunately. So people will say they haven't got enough money, but I come back to the point earlier on that sometimes people will have to look at how they manage their personal finances, and there's nothing wrong in that.
Bearded Mekon, James Daly.
The left discovered through sort of middle-class, self-indulgent narcissists in organisations such as Just Stop Oil.
Nick, cure for an insomnia, Fletcher.
That every male character or good role model must have a female replacement. One only needs to look at the discussion surrounding who will play the next James Bond. And it's not just James Bond. In recent years, we have seen Doctor Who, Ghostbusters, Luke Skywalker, The Equalizer, all replaced by women.
Paul, who? Bristow?
I'm in Bulgaria right now, and I remember going to an event with some school children, and all they had to tell me was Boris, because they recognised what a world leader this person was, and the idea that we got rid of him because of a few soggy sandwiches from Sainsbury's.
It's like a who's who of who knows what the f*** is going on. But the big beast in this particular Conservative coup, the Ash from Ashfield, 30p Lee doesn't do things for free, Anderson.
We've got a tin of cat food here. I don't know what brand it is, but it looks
I'm not eating cat. Are you
delicious.
Mental?
Well, we're going to get it out. We're going to see if you're really a cat.
Well, no, I'm not. I am not. I'm telling you now, I'm not. You go first and I'll follow.
Go on. Shake on that. You want to shake on that?
Oh God, I don't know if you're a man of your word. Are you going to try that? I don't want to. No, I don't want to.
You don't want to do it?
That was a Conservative MP on GB News challenging a female fellow presenter to put something in her mouth even though she clearly doesn't want to, which, I'm reliably informed, isn't new for the Conservative Party either. Although it's looking like Lee himself is up for a taste test. Let's hope eating cat food doesn't backfire on the Deputy Party Chairman.
Will the Home Secretary wish the Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party a speedy recovery from the terrible sick bug, which I understand has prevented him from launching this morning an entirely different Conservative immigration policy to the policy of the Conservative Home Secretary.
Surprised Suella hasn't called a sickie, but she has been working really hard on her comeback.
Mr. Speaker, it's quite remarkable that we have gotten to a position where the Labour Party leader can't actually define a woman. I think he said something like 99.9% of women don't have a penis. On that basis, we can't actually rule him out from running to be Labour's first female Prime Minister.
Alan Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, you had to be there. So what do the new cons want to do? Why cut immigration, of course? And what are the new cons' ideas for reducing immigration? To cut health and care visas, to reduce immigration by approximately 100,000, although that will increase the gap in the healthcare industry. In fact, it's going to double it. It's the equivalent of saving yourself from quicksand by giving a piggyback to your twin. Okay, so how is this race to the bottom of bad ideas masquerading as policy going to work? Bearing in mind the gaps in the market suggest that people in the UK don't want to do this work.
So what would you pay a carer per hour?
Just let me finish. That's exactly the same economic and market principle that we need to apply.
So what should a care home pay?
I don't know, Michelle. It depends.
You haven't thought about it?
Well, what do you think we should pay? You know,
I think there's a few points here. I think there's obviously slightly separate from the points-based immigration system and those sort of like people being granted visas. Our seasonal workers programs, which are slightly distinct. And certainly, I mean, I myself have been a fruit picker. I worked in a fruit process in a agricultural processing factory for 4 months myself, and I was in the radish department.
He's gone from picking vegetables to working for them. Besides, we can't increase wages, apparently.
Wages, I mean, you talk in the minutes about how wage growth at the moment is potentially too strong. So are people asking for too big wage increases, settlements right now?
Well, let me be very clear on this because it's an important issue. We've got to get, and we will get, inflation back to its target. To do that, I have to be clear, and we expect inflation to come down this year. To do that, we cannot continue to have the current level of wage increases.
New Conservatives, new Prime Minister, same old story. Blame the poor. So, we have got to the bottom of why Nigel Farage keeps getting rejected by banks. 9 in total now. It's to do with the fact that he doesn't have enough mola, cash. He's a wanker with no wonga. Coutts, the bank that he was with, sets a minimum amount to invest. If you look at their website, and already I can see 3 reasons Farage might have had a problem with this banking company, but it states that you need to have £1 million in investments or £3 million in savings. Oh dear, looking like the work's drying up for Farage McFarty Face. News reading isn't really where the money is, but don't worry, from what I understand there's going to be loads of jobs going in the care sector. Except you might be unqualified for that too, as you do actually have to care. But he has been offered a NatWest account, which is great news, right? Plus, it also means he gets to show how much of a man of the people he is, standing in the queue with the rest of us ordinary folk, standing in line, waiting to cash a cheque from Mr. V. Putin. On Tuesday, Rishi Sunak sat in at the liaison committee and struggled with his memory.
You didn't turn up for the Boris Johnson votes at all, did you?
No, I was at a charity dinner for Jewish care.
You didn't turn up for the Owen Paterson votes at all. That's right, isn't it?
I can't recall.
With his memory.
Do you think UK businesses should still be trading in Russia at all? Mantrack, which owns Unitrack FZE, sold new diggers to Russia in April of this year, and you took £5 million from its owner. Is that right?
I said
Last question.
I'm not familiar with the specific company.
It's facts about numbers.
Do you take responsibility for the fact the UK has the highest inflation in the G7 and the lowest growth projections?
So I think we've had this debate in the past, and if you look at the growth projections, actually we're the fastest growing country in the G7.
Yes, in fact, behind the US, Canada, Italy, Japan, France, we are a very strong 6. Well, joint 6 with Germany. Yes, we're in joint 6, fastest growing of the 7 countries that make up the G7. but he also struggled with remembering what his job was.
Remind us when the Prime Minister last missed two Prime Minister's questions in a row.
As I said, I don't know, but as I said...
In fact, Sunak has missed 18% of PMQs, 3 times as many as Johnson. A man, lest we forget, not exactly remembered for his work ethic. And honestly, it would just be nice for him to do the job he wasn't elected to do. Oh, and he struggled with the paperwork involved.
So the Privileges Committee has accused 7 MPs of trying to undermine and impugn its work. The Leader of the House has condemned this. Do you think that they should apologise to the House?
I haven't actually gone through the report yet, so...
You haven't read the report?
No, I haven't been through the report yet. Yes, I've read the findings report. I haven't read the report from cover to cover, no. But I have read the findings.
It's about 3 pages long.
But there was one thing he didn't struggle with. His timekeeping. To leave, obviously.
Indeed. Prime Minister, thank you for your attendance today. Maybe we can have an extra 10 minutes or so next time. But I'm most grateful to you for attending.
Thank you very much.
Order, order.
On Thursday, Parliament's Standards Committee recommended an 8-week suspension for Conservative MP Chris, unfortunately named Pincher. This followed on from the fact that he sexually groped 2 individuals at a private function. And Johnson, when asked on this, showed all the compassion you would have expected from him.
When I look at what
would you have listened to your colleagues a bit more when they conveyed their unease over things like the Chris Pincher affair, the Owen Paterson row, at any of these turning points?
Okay, look.
He really is Britain Trump.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
If this is voted on by the House, this will likely be the 5th by-election in the next few months, depending on where and if Doris can throw in the towel, you know, the bar towel. The real question is, will Sunak be there for the House vote, or will he suddenly find another charity that can't exist without him being there?
You didn't turn up for the Boris Johnson votes at all, did you?
No, I was at a charity dinner for Jewish care.
The government has lost its battle to try to stop it handing over Johnson's diaries, WhatsApps and notebooks. In its ruling, the court said inquiries should be allowed to fish for documents, and they've got this worm to act as bait. Not sure what they'll find, but we can all agree that Johnson's going to absolutely have the worst of it. Right? The NHS celebrated 75 years as an institution, an amazing milestone for the country, and installed after the war by a Labour government. It had 3 core principles: that it meets the needs of everyone, that it be free at the point of delivery, and that it be based on clinical need, not ability to pay. But there are those that think that maybe it's time at 75 to check the old institution into an institution. The Daily Express suggested reform. After all, 75 years means that the world has changed a lot in that time. The Daily Mail, unsurprisingly, decided to go with the world has changed too much and blamed a 7 million plus waiting list on an extreme trans ideology. And GB News, well, GB News, how can I put it? They're not fans.
Institution. The tributes have been pouring in. We're going to light up buildings in blue later on as well. We have stopped just short, by the way, of a state-mandated clapathon in the streets this evening and allowing all children or forcing them at gunpoint to chant about the NHS.
I believe there are many that work in the NHS that are rude, that are obnoxious, that are lazy and are incompetent.
Now, the NHS, on average, costs us around about £3,000 per person. That is actually more expensive than any private cover I've ever paid. But what the hell am I paying for?
The government's approach was just a tombola of words.
And then they feel that you're not acknowledging their truth.
No. What I've acknowledged is there were pressure on waiting times going into the pandemic because we have an older population. That in turn
had austerity and funding cuts.
We're investing in our workforce, in our NHS estate, in the latest technology. That is how we build a sustainable NHS for the future.
So keep the faith is your message to the public?
Yes.
OK, Secretary of State, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh yeah, hold your nerve, hold your organs in place, hold your hand in the air if you're having a heart attack. Contrast this with these organisations' approach with the monarchy. The Daily Express went with 4 delightful, colourful pages dedicated to the most dysfunctional family in history. The Daily Mail went for how normal it was to have an unelected king in a stolen bejeweled crown riding in a golden carriage. GB News decided the coronation was cheap at half the price.
Do not think that the coronation should be funded by taxpayers. Well, all I can say is no one asked me. I mean, I don't know how much we are paying. I don't know, but I just accept this is the first time in how many years? 50 years or
70
75?
plus.
Yes.
You know what? It is massively pared back. King Charles is very conscious of not being, what's the word?
But I don't want him to pare it back.
Yeah, but there's a cost of living crisis. We've just been talking about everyone's skin.
And the government all just lined up to kiss the King's ring. Apparently. The official party for the NHS was at Westminster Abbey on Wednesday, and Rishi Sunak gave a reading at the church, which was good for him as it meant nobody could question him about it afterwards. Although, if you hear the speech, the one thing you're going to have is questions.
I was hungry, and you gave me food. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when was it that we saw you hungry and gave you food? Just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family. You did it to me.
Honestly, whoever this you is, I think we should put them in charge. Yes, that was our Prime Minister who followed on from taking our money and taking us for fools, took one more thing, the piss. And that's it. No time to talk about Boris Johnson, who still hasn't been fired by the Daily Mail yet. A remarkable accomplishment. So what treats are we in for in this week's column?
Have a look at my column in the Daily Mail all about Sadiq Khan's odious, unjustified tax on driving, the new ULEZ charge he wants to bring in from August. Nothing to do with air quality, everything to do with Mayor Khan's, the Labour Mayor Khan's bankrupt finances.
ULEZ is bad? Not according to this guy.
Put very simply, we want to set a timetable for when most of the vehicles, almost all the vehicles coming in to central London will be at or near zero tailpipe emission.
No time to talk about when the rat's away, the cat will play. In this case, it's Grinning Ginger Tom, Oliver Dowden, who replaced Rishi Sunak for Prime Minister's questions. And he showed why he would be a good straight man in any comedy gig. All he needs is a comedy partner. Step forward, SNP member for Paisley and Renfrewshire South, and woman with the most misspelt name in Westminster, Mary Black.
The Deputy Prime Minister, I thank him for his kind words, and we did join this place at the same time, and I'm pretty sure we'll be leaving at the same time.
Black and ginger. It definitely could happen. Oh, and finally, we do like to leave things on a bit of a cliffhanger here. So how about this for a tweet from David Campbell Bannerman, former MEP? Well, Sunak has looked far more fed up. And out by Christmas does sound like the only present you'll get, or indeed be able to afford this year. But take it with a large pinch of salt, bearing in mind this guy's previous battles with the truth.
Any court in the land would not allow this. The judge would be dismissed, Harriet Harman in this case, and the jurors thrown out. I mean, they were determined to find him guilty right from the start. That was obvious. It's a political show trial. It's like Stalin.
Yes, this guy isn't exactly known for having both feet on the ground, or even knowing where the ground is. And he's the only person left in the UK that believed Boris Johnson was a competent Prime Minister. And I'm including Boris Johnson in that list. But Sunak has looked far more disinterested. And they're being spanked in the polls like a Tory MP looking for a nanny. So I guess what I'm saying is, take care. And I'll see you next week.